Hello and welcome to it. You're watching #Africa. In the next 15 minutes, we'll be taking a comprehensive look at some of the stories that dominated headlines across the continent. I'm Tutuzile Ramela. We start in Kenya. The corruption trial of Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu has been suspended. This after a barrage of legal petitions in various courts. Mwilu was due to be charged at a Nairobi magistrates court. However, a High Court judge suspended the case until October. The delay comes after her lawyers challenged the charges. Mwilu is one of the judges who annulled President Uhuru Kenyatta's election victory in August last year. Let's head to Africa's second largest petroleum exporter now. Angola says it'll ask the International Monetary Fund for a $4.5 billion loan. High oil prices in the 2000s helped the economic growth rate reach levels of almost 20%. But a slump in crude prices from 2014 and the failure to diversify the economy has plunged the country into financial crisis. Angola's finance ministry says the loan is to primarily consolidate its fiscal adjustment. The government is trying to reduce the budget deficit from 7% of GDP in 2017 to 3.4% in 2018. And in Zimbabwe, President Emmerson Mnangagwa has appointed an inquiry to investigate post-election violence. Former South African President Kgalema Motlanthe will lead the team. Zimbabwe in July held its first election since the ousting of former President Robert Mugabe. Now, after results favoring ZANU-PF were released, opposition MDC alliance supporters took to the streets of Harare. 6 people died and many others were arrested. Demonstrators accused the governing party of rigging results. Right, let's talk more about that commission of inquiry into Zimbabwe's post-election violence. I'm joined in studio by Glenn Mbani, managing partner at Shikamo Political Campaign and Advisory. Thank you so much, Glenn, for joining us. Why a commission of inquiry, and was it done constitutionally?
A commission of inquiry, this is a question that all of us are asking to say, why do you need a commission of inquiry when the perpetrators, those who were shooting, are there on footage? Why not just go and arrest them and find out where they got the authority for them to be able to shoot? The commission of inquiry is coming in a context. And the context that is currently there is the fact that the re-engagement agenda of the current regime has now been affected by an election which was taken to the Constitutional Court, but which remains largely questionable in terms of its credibility. So one can assume or can conclude that the reason why this is being done is not necessarily to deal with the violence that took place or the killing, but it's being done for another agenda. So this you can also read in the way that it's structured and how the government has responded to it. And if you look at what is currently being discussed, there are 3 problematic issues about it. One is the issue of how it was constituted. If you look at the Constitution of Zimbabwe, there should be advice from cabinet.
And there isn't a cabinet.
He has not yet appointed cabinet, but he has put it in place. And he has done it a day after Theresa May raised issues to say, you know what, we want to see how far he's going to go. So the question that one might ask is he responding to what the British want? And then the second issue that is there with this has to do with the neutrality of the commission and its members. The question, some of them have openly raised their issues in relation to what they think about what has happened, whereas commissions are supposed to be constituted by independent people who are neutral. The final thing that is also very problematic are the terms of reference of the commission. The commission should be there to openly be able to find out what happened and what are the issues. But it appears in the terms of reference, it's more about justification of what happened. So these 3 issues have affected, before it even starts, the neutrality and impartiality of how they're going to be able to work.
Let's look at the composition of that commission. Kgalema Motlanthe will be heading it up. Geopolitically, why was it important that they got people from within the continent to take a look at this?
My assessment is there are 3 angles that are there. One, there is the South African and the SADC. And they had to get someone like Kgalema Motlanthe, who has got a very good reputation for him to be able to manage and run the commission. But there's also another center that is there, the role of Britain. That is why you find the Chief Ameka Onyeuku and the London lawyer coming in as part of that commission. So we've got the SADC, and then we have the Britain role in it. The third one are the internal issues that are there. You've got the military issues. That's why we've got an appointment of a former general from Tanzania. And we've got ZANU-PF interests. That's why you find that some of the individuals from within Zimbabwe have a closer relationship to ZANU-PF. So these issues are going to play out as and when the commission is going to be able to function and do its role, but their legitimacy is already tainted.
Are you then ultimately saying that this is a PR exercise because it's in Zimbabwe's best interest to prove that indeed that this election was credible, and they're going to great lengths to sort of reassure not just the international community but here on the continent as well that they're doing everything possible to make sure that they appear to have done all the right things?
It comes across as a PR exercise, and whether it's going to succeed or not, it might have unintended consequences. If they decide that they're going to make the discussions of the commission public or the investigations, that one no one has control over. But with the debate that it has already generated, the commission is under so much pressure in terms of it proving that it is neutral, it can function. Whatever comes out of it, there are already questions on whether it's going to service the interests of bringing justice on those who have perpetrated. But there's already another fundamental problem that is there to say this might also be part of the intra-party fighting within ZANU-PF between the current president and the military, to say he wants to dispense with the heavy-handedness of the military. Then he comes up with a commission, and God forbid if it comes up with the recommendation that there was a problem, then he's throwing his second man under the bus. So there are so many dynamics that can emerge from this commission beyond its legitimacy.
South Africa has first-hand experience. We've had many commissions established, and we know how costly they are. Can Zimbabwe afford this?
Zimbabwe cannot afford it. A 3-month commission with such high-level people, I don't even know where they're getting the money. And it will be very interesting how they will be able to fund it. But looking at the fact that they would want Zimbabwe to be readmitted, I think they're willing to fund it. Or there might be other people who are willing to support it. I would not put it past the British that they might be able to put in money to do this. Because at the end of the day, they realize that this is the road that the country has to move in terms of them being able to re-engage them.
Is this a sore point for some Zimbabweans? There are many people who feel like the issue of Kukurahundi has still not been resolved in the country yet. We're seeing other commissions being established.
Yeah, I think there are so many outstanding issues that have not been given priority. And you raise a very fundamental point. The Kukurahundi is another issue that has not been, there have been successive issues of election violence that have not been dealt with. So one questions to say, but why this? Why are you doing this now? Perhaps the argument might be say it's a new dispensation, it's a new regime that is in office, we're doing things differently. But I would love to see whether they will take this to its logical conclusion and implement what comes out of this, regardless of the questions around its impartiality.
Glenn, always a pleasure chatting to you. Glenn Mbani is managing partner at Shikamo Political Campaign and Advisory Services.